Okay, y'all, the preliminary hearing in the David murder case is scheduled for tomorrow, and this could determine everything because this is where the prosecution has to finally show what they actually have. And make no mistake, this is about to be a full-on legal dogfight. So here's what's going on. David, whose real name is David Burke, is a 21-year-old artist who has pled not guilty to multiple charges tied to the murder of a 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, which has been officially ruled as a homicide. Right now, he's being held without bail at the Los Angeles County Men's Central Jail, and he's reportedly been placed in segregation, meaning he's separated from the general population. That's usually done for safety reasons, especially in high-profile cases.
Now, most people have already heard about this story. Popular singer David, spelled D4vd, was arrested in connection with the death of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. But what's come out since then changes everything. The motive, the timeline, and what happened the last night Celeste was ever seen, when David invited her to his home in the Hollywood Hills, and she never came back.
Celeste, a 14-year-old at that time, went to Mr. Burke's house in the Hollywood Hills. She was never heard from again.
And months later, in September 2025, that's when everything changed.
Police say the car had been at the lot for a couple of days. When asked about reports the vehicle is registered to 20-year-old singer David.
Because inside a car registered to the singer, investigators made a discovery: remains found in the front trunk, unidentified at the time. After sitting there for months, it was eventually revealed that those remains belonged to 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a teenage girl from Riverside County, California, who had initially been reported missing back in April 2024. Celeste had disappeared out of Lake Elsinore that same month. According to authorities, her family searched, put out flyers, shared her photos, asking anyone with information to come forward, hoping their daughter would be found. The family had reported Celeste missing from her hometown of Lake Elsinore, about 70 miles outside of Los Angeles. She was just a 7th grader, and Celeste had run away before, and at one point, she did return home. But after leaving again, this time, she never came back. For months, there were questions, and no answers about her whereabouts. But eventually, in September 2025, they would learn the truth, that Celeste was no longer missing. She had been killed, and as her family was continuing to come to terms with that, things were only just beginning to unfold. Within 48 hours of Celeste being officially identified, investigators made their next move, executing a search warrant overnight at a home in the Hollywood Hills area, where David, D4vd, Burke, had been living. And from that point, the investigation started to unravel. But for the public, very little was known. Details were limited in this case, and questions kept coming up. Until recently, because just recently, David was arrested in connection with the case, which sent shockwaves across social media.
Chicago, 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 Chicago.
We finally got some type of response or some type of proof of what David did to Celeste. Now, I want everybody to pay close attention because David did the most dumbest thing that a person could do when they're committing a crime. You see, David, he had his friend to go put the body inside of the trunk and for him to drive it to the pound. Now, the feds, they said that the people at the pound, they came out and found the truck sitting right there. Now keep in mind, this is not no regular truck. This is a Tesla. This is a $90,000 truck. They found the truck. They start smelling the odor. As soon as they noticed that it was a foul odor coming from the trunk and it didn't smell like no garbage or nothing like that, it literally smelled like a decomposed body. This is exactly what they said, and then I'm gonna let y'all hear what the witness said, which is David's friend who's turning against him.
When a body is found decomposing in the frunk of your Tesla, and there has been a young girl who's been missing for quite some time, and there's plenty of evidence that she ran away with you or a member of your entourage, I think there was a lot of evidence here pointing to David, and really the question was, what really took so long? And I think my initial reaction is, you know, I live and work in LA, I respect law enforcement, that things can move slowly here, but I think this investigative grand jury, I think, really is the answer. I think the DA wanted to lock in some members of David's inner circle to make sure that they cooperate, they don't go sideways at trial, and I think that's what they were waiting on before they ended up arresting him.
So the announcement that came from the LAPD's PIO account says he's been arrested
in connection to the murder of Celeste Rivas. And then it says that he's being held without bond. And then the case is going to be reviewed by the DA's office.
Singer David, known legally as David A. Burke, faces 2 court dates, was supposed to face 2 court dates following his arrest for the 2025 murder and dismemberment of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. This post coming from the Associated Press on your screen right there saying, breaking, prosecutors say David stabbed 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez to death to silence her from revealing their inappropriate relationship. So joining me to break down the latest in this case is defense attorney Silva Magradishian. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Celeste Rivas, the or possible lyrics that are value of this evidence. Jury sees lyric value of this evidence. Is it more important than the prejudicial effect? And what I mean by prejudicial effect is this evidence really is big for a jury. If a jury sees lyrics that are very similar to what happened to this young girl, or the fact that he had pre-planned a murder, then the judge could say, look, the evidence is so similar between the lyrics or the imagery and what happened, it's allowed in. But it's a super high bar. And what that means is the prosecutors really have to show a real relationship. It has to be a very close similarity between the lyrics or the imagery and what occurred. We see this a lot in school shooting cases where you have children who write essentially in their diaries, something that they want to do. But this is even more because California protects the artist's words and the poetic license. So it's a very high bar.
As we can see, after everything done transpired and went down, they done found evidence, they done went to his house and collected data and everything, David still plead not guilty out of everything that they just proved against this man. Now, the burden of proof is on the prosecutors to actually convict David. Now, it's a lot of people who speculate and they saying that David, he did it and he made multiple songs about it. He even reenacted what really went down in the music videos.
Right? Is there a weakness in this case? Remember, despite apparently multiple secret grand juries considering this case, evaluating evidence, hearing evidence, for whatever reason they chose not to indict, or maybe they weren't asked to indict. Could have just been an investigative grand jury or investigative grand juries. Which means now it's up to prosecutors to convince the court in a preliminary hearing that there's enough evidence to move this case towards trial. One of David's friends has just been arrested out in Montana. Let's discuss. We're trying to put 2 and 2 together. I want to bring on retired Detective Commander Will Svilar to talk about this. Will, thank you so much for coming on. Again, we're still developing this. I'm still looking for breaking news as we record this. This is a big development. Your thoughts?
Well, if he's being held for a failure to appear as a witness, that's a contempt of court charge. So the charge is contempt of court. They're going to extradite him, bring him back to LA. It sounds to me like, 2 and 2, like you said, the grand jury's been convened since November. What happens then is the prosecution is presenting witness after witness, putting evidence in against a specific target or targets for a specific charge.
Now, regardless of if he did that or not, you can't just line that up and say this is what he did to Celeste. Man, RIP to that girl Celeste, man. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you a fan of David.